An epic showdown with Mole inside the portal, a last stand against the Breen, a very surprising identity reveal of this mysterious character, and a look to the future for our Discovery characters. This was the series finale of Star Trek Discovery. Hey everyone, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Finatics. Well, today we're talking about the very last episode of Star Trek Discovery Season 5 and for the entire series itself. This was a feature-length finale, and we certainly tied up a lot of loose threads in this, and we had some very, very interesting reveals as well. So we're going to go through everything that happened in our last episode of Discovery, talk about that. Was it good? Was it a worthy finale? That's what we're here to talk about. So our episode begins inside the portal where Burnham is on this, what seems like almost like a, maybe a little bit of a nod to Wizard of Oz, perhaps. The yellow brick road ahead to the bright light and, fields of yellow flowers and everything. It kind of struck me as a little bit kind of, she's in the land of Oz kind of routine here. So there might have been some borrowings perhaps from that. We've got trees and windows to other worlds. She gets sucked into a weird environment where there's rocks and wind and rain and there's dead Breen on the ground and then she gets attacked by a Breen. They fight in the middle of a hurricane where she throws the Breen off into the hurricane to dispatch him, and then she's able to use the force of the hurricane to jump back into the land of Oz that is the inside of the portal there, where we find Mole is there, but she's wounded. Burnham offers to give her some medical aid in the form of here, borrow my dermal regenerator, and implores her that they have to work together if they're going to get out of here. I think it was a pretty impressive look to the inside of the portal, I think. I think they did a good job of making a very impressive yet sort of mystical and mysterious kind of space for this sort of finale to take place in. Next we go back to Discovery where they're trying to find out what's happened to Burnham in the portal. The Breen Dreadnought is sending out fighters and we know that Tahal, the other Priarch of Breen, is on her way to take over Rune's forces. Meanwhile, Saru's leaving on his mission to go and negotiate with Tahal, and Commander Nhan decides to go along to act as a bit of backup. We get Burnham and Mole having a bit of a negotiation on as they walk the proverbial yellow brick road there inside the portal, and a big fight ensues. This was quite an epic fight. I did enjoy this fight where we get this zero gravity battle between Burnham and Mole, and they're flying around the walls and they're doing wire work and all that sort of stuff. They end up in this sort of purple forest where they're fighting through that as well. They get thrown from the purple forest back into the portal and then back out into some fire world where there's rocks and fire and everything going on. So it was quite a big kind of showdown between these two, the protagonist and the antagonist of the season. Meanwhile, the fighters are being launched against Discovery. They've got to basically have this fight on the edge of the black hole, which is a pretty epic environment for our showdown between the Breen and Discovery. And while Discovery deals with the Breen forces, Book is going to take a shuttlecraft to go and see if he can get a bit closer to the portal to see if he can either communicate or is able to rescue Michael. And we know this season that Culber has been asking for a little bit more adventure in his life and everything. When he was Janal, he kind of, got a bit of a taste of a bit of this adventurous life. And he says he has to go on this mission with Book. Some sort of extrasensory force is sort of telling him he needs to go and help, which is some kind of, I guess, trill sixth sense thing that he's got going on from when he was bonded as Janal. Meanwhile, we get a bit more of Burnham and Mole in their big battle inside the portal. Burnham is imploring with Mole, come on, we've got to work together here. We're just going to kill each other inside this portal, or are we going to actually kind of find the progenitor's technology? Because the only way they're going to do that is if they just stop bashing the crap out of each other. Mole's reluctant, but she agrees, but you kind of know that this truce is only a temporary one and that she's essentially going to betray Burnham at the first opportunity she gets. All she cares about is getting Lark out of her pattern buffer and bringing him back to life. Trying to do that when you don't even know or have researched I don't know what she's thinking, because even if you did manage to get all this technology from the progenitors, it's going to take a long time to unpack it, work out how it works, work out how it can be utilised. You can't just sort of sprinkle some magic fairy dust on Lark and bring him back to life. That kind of seems a bit optimistic, but she's desperate and she's not thinking straight. And obviously people do stupid stuff when they're grief-stricken and desperate. Meanwhile, the Discovery is under attack by the Breen forces, which we see on this display and never in real life. This part of the episode I thought was perhaps a little bit disappointing, I guess, in the sense that we saw all of these Breen fighters coming after Discovery. We'd seen clips from trailers and stuff before of this pretty much one and only shot where we got the Breen fighters coming after Discovery. And I'm thinking, oh, cool, there's going to be, a bit of a dogfight here. We're going to have the fighters attacking Discovery and Discovery trying to shoot them off and everything and do some cool evasive maneuvers. But they come up with this plan which is just like, oh, let's just fly closer to the black hole and we're going to ignite some plasma and a big explosion which is going to blow all the fighters up. Not even have to shoot back at one of them. So I kind of thought this was a bit of a cop-out. I thought I wanted to see a big epic dogfight between the Discovery and all these Breen fighters, Rayner pulling off some pretty cool moves and everything to dwindle their numbers, maybe before then taking out the remainder of the fighters with a big plasma explosion. But we didn't get that. We just got let just fly in, they follow us, we blow up the plasma, they're all dead, bang, So I thought that was a little bit of a disappointing way to deal with all of those fighters. I thought we could have seen a little bit more fighter versus Discovery action here. That could have been a bit bigger, I think. Meanwhile, we see Mole and Burnham are back in the portal there. They're brainstorming. Then this massive field of yellow flowers. The set pieces and everything in this portal, I think, were pretty stunning. Even though it was sort of like odd, they were in this kind of weird field of yellow flowers and everything, it was kind of suitably mystical, but also inspirational in terms of creating life and everything and seeing all the different environments. So I think that was, generally speaking, handled quite well. It needed to be an epic space, and I think it was an epic space. Meanwhile, Saru and Nan intercept Tahan and her dreadnoughts. She's got 3 dreadnoughts here. Oh, she's got a bit more than Rune's forces. Rune's forces just seem to have 1 dreadnought, whereas Tahan's forces comes equipped with 3 of these dreadnoughts. So she's packing quite a bit of firepower. And Saru tries to negotiate with her, but she's kind of not really paying much attention, doesn't really take Saru that seriously, not impressed, and Saru has to pull out his action Saru persona from his bag of tricks to spark some kind of attention from her. Meanwhile, back in the portal there, in the field of yellow flowers, we see Burnham and Mole. We see a pile of rocks, which is a memorial site to the Betazoid Dr. Derex, who was the last, I guess, person to deal with the progenitors in terms of, helping to create the whole series of tests to hide the technology and everything. And it appears that she was like a caretaker, I suppose, of the data, and she obviously passed away in the portal, hence the pile of rocks monument there. We find an interface which sparks up, and there's all these triangles, and we know that Burnham knows the clue to the puzzle, which is the one, she has to find the one between the many. Although I was a bit confused as to why she just told Mole this piece of information and just let her know what the clue was. Why wouldn't you keep that piece of information to yourself and do the puzzle without letting her know what it is? Because otherwise she has no reason why she doesn't just smash you over the head and knock you unconscious. Oh, that's right, she did. And because she thinks she knows the answer to the puzzle, i.e. make a triangle in the shape of all the little triangles, and she obviously gets her lark out of the transporter buffer on her wrist, she makes the triangle, but it's the wrong triangle, and some sort of safety protocol is engaged. She gets zapped by some electricity and everything. She's not going to fare well from this little exercise, from rushing in too quickly. Meanwhile, the portal seems to be getting sucked towards the black hole, which is of concern to Book and Culber, who are in the shuttlecraft. And it seems like some of that knowledge that Culber got imbued within him from when he was Janal has hung around, because Culber seems to know the exact precise frequency, thanks to his prior time as Janal, to lock onto the portal in order to tow it away from the black hole that's pulling it in. We get a bit of nifty negotiation from Saru, who lays down the law to Priarch Tahal. He's definitely wearing the action Saru pants for this scene. I loved his strength and determination in this scene. I think he did an awesome job of really letting Tahal have it and putting it all out there in front of her so that she basically couldn't say no to his demands. And he's successful and gets Tahal to change course. Meanwhile, Michael regains consciousness from being knocked out by Mole and realises that Mole's being zapped by the portal because she got the puzzle wrong. She's off to tribal council puzzle tonight. It did seem like a bit of a survivor puzzle she had to do. They had the physical challenge to get to the end of the puzzle, and then they had to figure out what the puzzle was in order to win immunity, but otherwise she was going to get voted out that night. Burnham goes over her one between many clue and is managed to solve the puzzle by making the form of the triangle in the null space in between all of the other triangles.
Mike wins individual immunity. Safe tonight at Tribal Council.
With the correct code entered in for the puzzle, the environment changes, and we get to see another progenitor, obviously made to look very similar to the one we saw back in that chase episode of Next Generation. And our progenitor explains all of the bits and pieces that Burnham needs to know about the instruction, gives her a bit of a lesson and everything about the history of the technology and everything. And it turns out the technology is even older than the progenitors. The progenitors left it there. So it's not like the progenitor said, "Oh, we did all of this." It's like, "Oh, we just got it off somebody else who preceded even us." So apparently all this technology is from the progenitors. That seemed like it was just going back a bit way too far. Did we need to kind of have it go back even that far? I don't know. That sort of seemed like we didn't need that bit. Meanwhile, with Book and Culber on the edge of the portal black hole, Culber said he knew he had to come and help Book and everything, and they end up towing the portal away from the black hole to safety. But the threat isn't over yet, and we get a bit of a novel idea from Rayna. It was a little bit of a stretch, I think. The fact that she said, "Oh yeah, okay, well let's just use the spore drive to send all of the Breen ships to the edge of the galactic barrier." Again, this was another bit they did, I think, with the whole Rayna versus the Breen, where I kind of felt like it was a one-size-fits-all solution. Obviously, the Breen Dreadnought is a giant ship, like an enormous Death Star kind of size thing, and the Discovery versus just this one ship would have been no match for it. The Breen would have wiped them out in seconds. Somehow they managed to also separate between the saucer and the main hull of Discovery, and then somehow make a spore connection between the two to send all of the Breen forces away at once. No, I'm sorry, this was just too easier a solution. I think everything in this episode I was completely cool with, except all of the Discovery, Rayna and the Discovery versus the Breen stuff. The solutions were way too easily come across, and I think they just seem to be this kind of one-size-fits-all solution where we get, oh yes, Stamets just writes down his fancy scientific code and works out exactly how to do it. But hang on, the spore drive is in the main hull of Discovery, but they've got the saucer up the top and everything. It's like, I don't think it kind of works that way. We're doing things with the spore drive technology that has never been done before, and to be quite honest, it didn't seem all that plausible. Just because Stamets does his, Rayna asks Stamets to come up with some fancy, physics code to make it work, and he magically makes it work. I think there's way too much in things in Discovery where they just magically come up with a solution and just pull it out of thin air and just, we magically knew what the scientific code was. So I kind of found this finale with the Breen and Rayna wasn't that satisfying a conclusion to that side of the story, particularly because as well, when we had Burnham talking to the progenitor and the progenitor's giving Burnham a lesson in the history of life and all of that sort of stuff and the technology, we're cutting back to Rayna and the fight against the Breen, where we're not hearing explosions and cool sequences and everything like that. We're just hearing the progenitor give a bit of a science lesson whilst all this stuff is going on. So I kind of feel we got robbed of a really cool action finale between the Breen forces, the Discovery, led by Rayna. There was a couple of shots in there that kind of looked cool, but I think because they were all being voiced over by the progenitor's lecture, it took a lot of the impact out of them. I did not like that aspect of this episode, and I think we sacrificed quite a lot of kind of kick-ass, yay, action, that we could have had as a big final epic showdown. I thought we kind of got robbed of that a little bit by the way that was handled and the very easy solution to just let's just beam them all, using the spore drive to the edge of the galactic barrier, and then we just take care of them all in one move. Just too easy, and didn't have the weight that I think we were all hoping for. The progenitor wants Burnham to stay on as the steward to all of the data, but Burnham makes the decision that the data is really pretty powerful and not one person should be responsible for it. It has the potential to wipe out all life in the galaxy, so nobody should have that kind of power. And she makes the decision that it should just sort of stay hidden. Burnham and Mole have to go, and Book and Culber beam them back on board the shuttle. We all end up back on Discovery, and Burnham obviously tells everybody of her experiences. The progenitor's data is cast adrift to forever spend its life into one of the black holes that they shoot it off towards, so nobody can ever work out how to use it. We get a final scene between Mole in sickbay, back at Federation headquarters. Book goes to visit, gives her a bit of a pep talk, and does the whole, I screwed up in season 4, and I'm redeemed, so maybe you can be redeemed as well. So I guess there's hope for Mole yet, even though she's got to go and do some time because of her actions. And it seems that Kovich has some plans for Mole in some capacity. Burnham meets with Kovich in his office. We always have known that Kovich is a bit of a mysterious dude. Lived many lives and been around a while and knows a lot of stuff. And we finally get a pretty cool, I thought, reveal as to Kovich's true identity. And we find out that Kovich is in fact none other than Agent Daniels, the time-travelling overseer who led Captain Archer on the path that he was on through all the temporal stuff, the temporal Cold War and all that sort of stuff that happened in Enterprise. Kovich used to be Daniels. So I thought that was kind of a very cool nod to that character from Enterprise. That was cool. I think it would have been even cooler if they'd got Matt Winston, the actor who played Agent Daniels, to reprise his role in this scene with Michael Burnham. I think that would have been way even cooler, but just to find out that Kovich was in fact Daniels, that was also, I think, a nice twist as well. And also cool to see all these little ornaments and things in his office, from Cisco's baseball to Geordie's visor to a bottle of Chateau Picard. There was all manner of little bits and pieces he's collected along his journey along the way, which I thought was a good nod to various different Star Trek series. Next, we get the wedding between Saru and Tarina on the beach there. Burnham, and all of the crew and everything in attendance. Great to see the wedding here. I think this was great. It was nice to see everybody dressed up and happy. We finally got to see their wedding and everything, which I think was really cool. However, seeing the group shots of the crowd, it brought to my attention that Tilly standing next to this guy who she flirted with earlier in the season never really went anywhere. It was sort of set up to go somewhere, and then it just never panned out. And everybody looked a lot older in this. From this moment on in the episode, everybody looked significantly older because they obviously did the pick-up shoot for this episode. I think it was at least a year after they wrapped principal photography on season 5, because they gave the show an extra series of pick-up shoots to turn what was just a season finale into a series finale. Which makes me think that the wedding between Saru and Tarina maybe was slated to go for the first episode of season 6 if there had have been one. But they had to shoot it to bring it forward. And everybody's hair was different and everything, and some people had beards and whatnot, so it was, you could tell there had been, in fact, a bit of time had passed. Tilly obviously said she's off to be a lecturer again at Starfleet Academy, so obviously that's pretty much cemented her involvement in the Starfleet Academy series. I'm pretty sure of. It appears that with Book's help and everything on all the missions, his sentence has been commuted. Feels like he's off the hook from what he did in season 4. And we get this admission of love and everything between Michael and Book. They're back together again, but it seems like Kovich might have a mission for them based on the little, infinity symbol thing that he lets Michael hang on to. We now have a big time jump to the future, where we jump forward probably 30 or 35 years into the future. Burnham, she's aged somewhat, looking a bit grey and a bit more wrinkled and everything, and we get to see the life that she's spent with old Book. Her and old Book have got a few extra grey hairs and a few wrinkles. They've obviously had a long life together of happiness, because Burnham is heading back to Starfleet to send the Discovery on its last final mission. A shuttle arrives from Starfleet, and who other gets out but Burnham Jr. Obviously, Book and Michael have had a son. He's a fully grown adult, probably in his late 30s, and he's obviously worked his way up the ranks of Starfleet himself, and he's become a Starfleet captain. And his name is Leto, obviously named after Book's nephew who was killed when Quajan was destroyed. I thought he might have been named Michael Jr., but no, Leto, which is fine. Michael leaves with her son, Leto Burnham Booker, I guess his name would be. We see the shuttle fly off down the river, and we get to see Molly the Transworm that they delivered to Sanctuary 4, which is where their house is. And she's been living there and having babies and happily swimming through the river. We also get to see the tree that Book has planted using those seeds that he got back at the Eternal Library Archive, which is flourishing and growing on this planet that they're living on. We see Burnham walk onto the very empty bridge of Discovery by herself to take it on its very final voyage, where we get finally the tie-in between Discovery and the Calypso short trek. I think is great that they finally gave us a tie-in to this, because they had the droids or whatever out on the hull, removing the A from the hull and basically removing the floating matter nacelles or whatever, and having them attached back to the hull of Discovery again, purely so that continuity matches what happened previously in that short trek episode. Burnham can take the Discovery off to some nebula somewhere to live the next 1,000 years by itself in the middle of some nebula somewhere for some weird and unknown reason, which is obviously some sort of red directive mission that Kovich, aka Daniels, gives to Burnham as her final voyage on board Discovery. Michael has a final conversation with Zora, and obviously name drops the fact that she has to go and meet up with Kraft, who's the guy from the Calypso short trek, which I kind of did find a little bit strange that they were putting so much emphasis on this short trek episode as the huge finale to the entire series. And we get a bit of a flashback scene here where Burnham's sitting on the captain's chair and she's remembering her time on board the Discovery, and we see flashbacks with her and Saru and hugs to all the crew, and Detmer's there, and Owo's there, and Bryce is there, and Reno's there, and Linus is there, and Reese is there, Culber's there, and Rayner's there, and Tilly's there, and everybody's hugging and patting each other on the back and everything. And this is all going on in Burnham's imagination, I suppose, as she's remembering her time with her crew of Discovery. But not one character gets a line of dialogue. Nobody gets to say a word. We get a essentially montage with a 2-second shot of each character only, which I kind of find a bit disgusting, to be quite frank. Burnham's son Leto got more screen time and more things to say in this finale than any of the other Discovery bridge crew, which really deserved something a bit greater, I thought, for the ending here. But let's face it, all of the crew of Discovery have pretty much been ignored for the entire 5-season run of the show. And it's always been the Michael Burnham show, and obviously now it's the Leto Burnham show as well. So, yeah, why I guess start now giving the bridge crew any credence whatsoever when they've never done it for the entire show? The rest of the cast deserved some kind of farewell. I kind of understand Oo and Detmer and Reese and so forth, who have been ignored for the entire 5 seasons, didn't get anything to do, but they didn't even give Culber or Stamets or Tilly anything to say in this finale. They just got a hug and a 1-second shot. It was just all about Burnham, which is kind of typical of the series. The ending scenes of the finale became more about Burnham and Book's legacy and her son than it did about really saying farewell properly to our cast of characters that have been with Discovery since the beginning. Burnham gives Zora the command to let's fly. The Discovery spores away to go and leave Zora and the Discovery on the edge of the galaxy somewhere. And that's it for the show. I guess it was satisfying, the fact that they tied into the whole Calypso short trek thing, but it kind of also seemed like a little bit of a the entire finale moment is just built around this little one short trek moment. I know we've all kind of wanted that whole short trek explained, which I think was good, but I certainly didn't expect them to make such a big deal about it in the finale and revolve the whole final moments around what leads into this just one short trek episode. I found that to be satisfying, yet sort of maybe a little odd at the same time. Discovery certainly had its ups and downs over the years. We've had some good seasons and some bad seasons and some ups and downs and everything. But without Discovery, we wouldn't have got Picard, and we wouldn't have got Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks and everything. So even though love it or hate it, Discovery has certainly brought us a lot of Star Trek over the years, so that we should all be thankful for that. Guys, let me know what your thoughts were for our finale for Star Trek Discovery Season 5 and for the entire series. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about it, and we'll get chatting about that. Be sure to check out my merch in the merch store. Plenty of cool t-shirts in there to pick up a bargain. I think there's a sale coming up pretty soon, the next couple of days, so be looking out for that, and you can pick yourself up something at a big discount. Check out the description and be sure to pick up something while the sale is on. I'll be back on Saturday for a live stream. We're going to talk all about the last 4 episodes of Discovery and also the season as a whole, what our thoughts were about that. We've got a good panel of guests as always, so be sure to check out the live stream on the weekend. Tune in for that. And I'll see you guys then. See you soon.